Dee, 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 dee. Okay, deconverted man here. What do you get when you have a ton of confirmation bias, argument from ignorance, post hoc, proper, ergo hoc, a hasty generalization, circular reasoning, false dilemma, and all sorts of scientific errors? Well, you get a video from Logan Jones here. Yes, Logan Jones. Yes, the apologist who I have been following for a while to keep tabs on him. I knew he was going to get more and more desperate as time went on with his logical fallacies and inaccuracies, and so I've been watching. I've been waiting for him, and he's finally done it. He's made a hour and 16 minutes and 58 seconds video documented 13 medically documented miracles. Well. A claim like that cannot go unskepticism. Yeah, he actually provides citations. Oh my God. He's got a news article. And then he has is this is that a books? Anyways, and then he has a scientific paper. We're gonna be looking at that, and then more. I don't know. It's just another book, and then YouTube videos. Those are citations, and then another thing. Oh, I somehow missed that. And then another thing. Oh, yes. And then another video. Okay. Now we're gonna check that out. We're not gonna analyze the entire the entire video. I mean, that would be kind of crazy, wouldn't it? In fact, I don't know that we need to look at the video at all. Yeah, I can just tell you about it. So he's got confirmation bias, where he selectively presents cases that support his view and ignore all the ones that don't. It's just here's all these positive antidotes. And then of course relying completely on the appeal to ignorance, where you say, "Oh, there's no natural explanation for these things," because there just isn't. Even though there could be, even though there might be, well, maybe it's a lack of scientific explanation. No. It's got to be supernatural. It can't be that. No future discoveries will ever figure it out. Of course. And of course, you got the after this, before because of this, post hoc, proper, ergo hoc. So there's healing claims. Remember, they're all claims. They're not actually. I mean, some of them seem to be true, but they're tied to prayer events, or at least we're told that there was prayer events and or visions, and that there's some sort of relationship there. And well, was the person actually getting treatment? Well, maybe their diet changed. Maybe they moved environments. There's all sorts of other contributing factors. They're just completely ignored. Because, well, somebody said that they prayed for them. So that must be why they're healed now. And they were healed instantly. Well, it took 37 years, or 13 years, or, it took some time. It was a few years before this one gal, she was, diagnosed early on. Well, the diagnosis was not well done because at the time they didn't really have the medical diagnostic tools that we do today. So we're not even sure if she had what they think that she had. But then she was maybe prayed for at some point, and then she got healed after a few years, of prayer and possibly getting medical treatment. So I have links to a whole bunch of things in my description on this video. And see, I don't pick and choose of what I look at. I look at all the things. Let's see. Oh dear. Let's see. I can. Oh dear. The link is not working. That's a shame. Let's see if I can find the right thing. That's interesting. I'm trying to find these articles. I had linked them, and now they're not. Now they're not working. Now that I'm live, isn't that great? Let's just love that. Man. Okay, I might have to go to my post on YouTube community. Let's see. Well, let's see. Come on. Okay. Well, let's just start here. Whatever. Screw it. Whatever. We'll just start with that. That's fine. It's fine. So this blog checks out the paper that appears to be scientific in nature, and he looks into the intercessory prayer claims and all that of the paper, and looking at it, and says, that this is dubious standards. The journal, doesn't seem like it's really doing its, hard work here. The website is asking for new testimonies. Do you have a testimony that's medically verified? Or could you imagine a similar claim? If you took our remedy and improved, we want to hear from you. Otherwise, not. It's like, yeah. So it's looking for positive results. We're always looking for new testimonies. That's So he goes to the website, or he goes to a different website, and he looks at this study. Has numerous basic scientific problems, and the results can't be trusted. Find the argument that a deity is better able to heal, and the person asking them to do so physically close to the person they're praying for absurd, lame, and inconvenient. It's a nice excuse to unblind the protocol and nothing else. A way of generating false positive results. The process for collecting subjects used by the authors and supported by their institution, in addition to their experimental design, is constructed with the sole purpose of bypassing methods of science. And he was particularly surprised when he dug into the first study, went into their supplemental information, and saw a nice time line of events emphasis his. And he goes through how, basically, they're fudging their results. The time between the prayer listed and the eye exam is a whopping 29 years. That's instantaneous, immediately, as soon as they had it, it was prayed for and healed 29 years later, but that's instant. Okay. But we're also taking the word of the patient, saying, oh, that's what did it, because they also prayed that day when they finally were able to see, so they did get prayer on that day too. So that's what makes it instant, right? But the documentation is, it's 20, whatever, it's fine. There's no controls in the second study, and the authors have a history of ludicrously bad design, and he's not convinced. You look at the originals, you examine the methods, possible ways the author could have deliberately not biased the results. And that's why we have the blinding processes for medical experiments and controls. So if you don't do that, you're gonna fall into the abyss, if you will, and you're gonna find what you want to find. This whyevolutionisttrue.com has a number of studies. Now they also have broken links, but that's fine. You can find the studies they're talking about. Where there's one done 22 years ago. The conclusion of the study is that there's no evidence of effective intercessory prayer. So a study from 17 years ago, and the two groups uncertain about receiving intercessory prayer. Complications occurred in 52%, and versus 51% of those who did not. So about what we'd expect from chance alone. So doesn't seem to have any effect on complication-free recovery. And, there's more studies that also show that intercessory prayer did not have any noticeable effects in these studies. And then, some complaints about all that stuff that's going on there. And then let's see. There's another metadata study on intercessory prayer, a meta-analytic review, and they, do all that. And their conclusion is not just that there's nothing here, but you shouldn't even waste any more time or resources looking at intercessory prayer. That's a pretty deep cut to make, because usually when reading a study, you'll see, well, we need more funding to look into this again. They're just like, nah, forget it, we're done. We don't. This is done. This is a done deal. There's nothing to look at. There's nothing to see here. It is the same result whether the people are prayed for or not. And there you go. But ignore all that. Ignore all that, because I have one paper that says it was real. I have a paper, and I also have all of this other documentation in books, and that's all I need. I only need that. Now, we want to attack the argument, not the people. But when we look at a scientific paper, we need to look at the people that published it, because they might not be worth much. And that does matter when doing science. So here is an examination of one of the authors of the paper that he cited, which is this. Oh, no, that's bringing up the wrong one. And here we go. Okay, so I want to bring up that first. The case report. Hold on here. Here's the paper in question. Here's who wrote it. And, so she was diagnosed with juvenile macular degeneration. She was blind for 12 years. After a brief proximal immunary prayer, she regained her eyesight. Her eyesight remained 20/40 or better. It wasn't even perfect eyesight, but it restored her thing. And you can read through this. Okay, but who are these authors? So we need to look at them. So when you click on them, you can look deeper at them. So that's what I wanted to do. So Rome's Clarissa has 3 documents, at least on this website. Maybe she has more somewhere else. And she's been cited by 16. That's not a lot. That's like basically nothing. So that's not good. Okay. Usually scientists have like a ton. So we'll get there. Friedman. Now, this guy's impressive. He's got 428 citations, but only 23 documents. At least, again, on this website. Maybe he has more somewhere else. So that's actually, he's been cited a bunch. That's good, but still not a lot of contributions to the field of science. So it's like, okay, better than nothing, but not as good as we were hoping for. Zachary David, 21 citations, 2 documents. Oh, okay. And then finally, we get to the one that's actually impressive. Joshua Brown with 7,084 citations and only 86 documents, but still, he's been cited a whole lot, and he's got an actual good amount of writings. Well, finally, somebody maybe we could trust to some degree. And he is in the right field of science, so that's a good thing. But looking at the video itself, the video acknowledges miracles can't be replicated or tested, but look, see, this happened. Somebody's told us that this happened. Isn't that good enough? It's just anecdotal evidence. It's not science, but we're going to pretend it's science because we're going to ignore medical explanations. Bone regeneration, recovery from Parkinson's, stuff like that. We're going to ignore that it could be mixed diagnosed. We're going to ignore placebo responses. We're going to ignore everything like that. We're also going to assume that medical authority confirms miracles because the doctor said it was a miracle, so therefore it's a miracle. That's good enough. All of this is, of course, relying on testimonies and subjective reports, because even the paper that's cited includes a story in the paper that somebody tells. Like, that's not science. This is a risk representation of probability all throughout this video. It's like, well, how unusual this is. Like, it's very rare. It's very rare. It's like, yeah, because you're looking at the fringe events. You're looking for things that confirm your idea. You're not looking at all the things. You're looking for the times when people said that it was a miracle. You're not looking for all the times where anything happened. So, are these actually documented cases? Some of them are, some of them aren't. But are they well documented? Are they blind? Are they controlled? Or are we just relying completely on people's personal testimonies? The citations of the video, all those videos, links, and things like this, all this stuff, again, more anecdotal evidence, more dismissing of any other possible explanation. Then there's misrepresentation of medical documentation. So it references medical reports and x-rays as proof of miraculous healings, but maybe it's a medical error, maybe it's a misdiagnosis, maybe there's natural healing processes. But again, it's just, it's all just miracles. There's a tumor that disappeared after 2 days, so that's a miracle. But it could be tumor necrosis or imaging artifacts. But forget about it. And then he uses these peer-reviewed articles. But those articles aren't blinded, so they're not very good. He's got tons of logical errors in regards of the probability and statistical reasoning that he has. Again, I'm just looking at the citations, quote unquote, in his description. So He just says, it's 160,000 chance that this happens to heal. Who knows where that number comes from? But just, whatever. And lots of appealing to authority and doctors' opinions. So here's these doctors that are saying, there's no explanation, so therefore it's a miracle. Doctors can get stuff wrong. Maybe they're right. Maybe they don't know the explanation, but that doesn't mean it's a miracle. And he misuses philosophical and scientific arguments. He's like, he mentioned David Hume, even though he doesn't use Hume right. And then he conflates science, philosophy and scientific methodology and theology altogether. And, the miracles are exempt from repeatability because they're actions of a free agent. So basically, you can't tell the miracle maker, whether it's angels or God or whatever's going on there. You can't tell them when to show up and produce a miracle. They do it when they feel like it. So you can't get it done on command, which means it's untestable. Miracles are, by the way, undefined, completely undefined. What is a miracle? How do you know when anything is a miracle? That question, not addressed as far as I can tell, unless I missed it, which is possible because he just goes on. Like I said, I'm not going to play the entire video. It's an hour long. I'm not going to be here for 5 days analyzing this video step by step and showing you all these fallacies. I'm just telling you what his errors are. Now I'm just telling you what the errors are in the citations. But again, I've got I'm going to make sure my links work on this video, and get all that working for you guys, girls and robots out there that actually care about the real science. The books are not citations. Anybody can write a book. Anybody can get a book published. I've got books published. Those, that a book is not a scientific paper. And the one scientific paper that was shown is one that we have to have some doubts on, because even though it appears on its surface to be scientific, again, that one blog dived into that the publication that published that paper wasn't very rigorous in their methods to do it, and the science itself is questionable because it's not blinded, and the authors don't appear to have, except for one author, they don't appear to have a lot of scientific contributions at all. So it's like, well, who are these people? And why? You would think that, here's the thing. Let's pretend for a moment, just getting away from my analysis here. We had a scientific paper written by 4 people. That's great. But written however many people that showed documentation of miraculous case. Those people would win a Nobel Prize for that, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they all be infamous? We would know about them. We'd hear nothing about that. We'd hear, nothing but news about them. It would be huge. It would be major, right? So why are they not recognized for this accomplishment? Look at what they discovered. They found proof of the miraculous. That would be huge, but that didn't happen. Their paper went largely unnoticed. I don't think it's been cited hardly at all. If it has been, maybe, I think it had, I'd have to go back and look. Either had no citations or it had a few. But then the citation of it might be, hey, look at this bad paper, But anyways, what else? Let's see, lack of control groups. Yeah. So looking deeper at these the paper of are there demonstrable effects of intercessory prayer? The authors, Randolph Bird was a medical doctor with focus on psychiatry and neurology, and they're known for researching effects on prayer and healing. Huh. Interesting. So he might have, kind of a reason to say that this is really happening because that's his entire thing. But his background aligns with clinical research. His work is just about spirituality and medicine. So there's a very neat little tiny slice that he has been doing for however long he's done it. So he has every reason to bias this study in his favor because his whole career hinges on it, right? Herbert E. Crow was a clinical psychologist, and that's it. What's he doing in this study here? Why is he here? What is he really contributing? I don't really know. Is it inappropriate in person to include? I suppose you're analyzing health outcomes, so maybe, but you seem to be ignoring psychology. Like, the people know they're being prayed for, that could have a positive effect upon them. So I don't know. Let's see. And the other people, I couldn't find much on it. I couldn't find anything. So, yeah. The paper, again, you can argue back and forth whether the paper is valid or not. It's I don't think it is, but it seems to be put together decently, somewhat ish. Now, I also tried to find out if these guys the authors were Christians or adhered to religious belief, but I couldn't find anything on that. It seems like they're doing what they should be, which is just, let's document what we found. But at the same time, if that's their entire bread and butter of, I'm studying the effects of prayer and healing, then of course you're going to write a paper like this, and of course it's going to be, how can you not have it be biased towards what you're doing? That's okay, so what about the and I guess I should have the paper on screen while I talk about it here. I'm just kind of looking at my my notes about this, my findings and whatnot. Here we go. Okay, so all right. So, where was I? Let's see. Yeah, the research method. Yeah, it's so these are like retrospective case reports and not controlled experiments. There's a few peer-reviewed articles referenced, but again, nothing that is really rigorous. There's no experimental controls. There's no randomization, and no blinding method used at all. So that's really a problem. And so you can't exclude placebo effects. You can't exclude spontaneous remission. You can't exclude diagnostic errors. So all of that, though, is completely ignored because, well, we want the outcome to be a certain way. So we're just going to ignore the other potential things. And that's not skeptical. That's not scientific. and of course it's pure causation and correlation. The prayer happened, or at least here's the problem with this is it's not really documented when this prayer happened. We're just told that it happened. And then, then the healing occurs. Well, do we have documentation of the healing? No, not really. But they were eventually healed. But it's just not. All the variables are not there. The rarity of these events and the strong faith-based narrative introduce confirmation bias. Bottom line. The lack of evidence here, and this is cherry-picked as well. So this paper is going into cherry-picked data of people that are reporting positive events. So, of course, you're going to get positive events. It's as if, okay, there have been papers done on UFOs, okay, and UFO sightings. And this is the same trend. They go and they talk to the people that saw the UFO. Of course, we saw the UFO. Here's what the UFO looked like. Here's what the aliens look like. And somebody somewhere puts out, hey, if you have a UFO story, tell us about it. And so people will, of course, tell a story, whether something happened or not. They will tell a story. And so you're already selectively taking the events that happened and not the times when people saw something and it turned out to be an airplane, and so and then of course over time people's stories started to sort of line up, and they couldn't tell if that was because people were hearing other people's stories and then just latching onto those stories, or if they were seeing something real. And of course nobody ever recorded anything, and none of it was ever found by anybody. And of course there'd have to be a huge cover up and all this. So it's a bunch of nothing. When you actually do the rigor of looking into these matters, you find nothing. And that's why I reference all these metadata studies. So a metadata study is a study of studies where you get 4 or 5 or 10 different studies that have been done on interterrestrial prayer. They call it IP. And you look at all those results and you just add all that up and say, what do we have? And those metadata studies have shown about 50-50. Okay. This is nothing but anecdotal. A few, there's documented accounts, but still anecdotes, and it's all interpreted as being because of prayer and not for any other reason. Okay. And that's my analysis of the video. It's comment section. It's so-called sources and the paper itself. And it's not super deep. I'm not going into line by line of, all that stuff. Okay. I'm just I'm giving you the links to the metadata studies on IP and asking you to look into it further yourself and look at these, see if you can find out more about these people. I wasn't able to find out that much. A couple of them I did. The other two I couldn't find much on, so maybe you'll have better luck. But Logan's not interested in doing that. He's like, look, I've got this huge video. I've got all these citations. I've got all these things. I'm like, no, they're really not what you think they are. Those videos aren't citations. He said he had a documentation, a video recorded evidence of somebody's healing. Now I looked for that and I found a video where it was somebody telling a story about how they were in a wheelchair and they went to a prayer church and they got prayed for and then they were able to walk. Yeah, we've seen that happen before. We've seen that is very fakeable. So nothing there. What we would want, and one of the commenters on the video said to me that, no amount of evidence would convince you. Well, the problem here is you don't have evidence. So, and you don't have a methodology. So we have to first, we're talking about doing something scientific on something of the spiritual realm. And many people say you can't do that in the first place. You're not allowed to use science on the spiritual at all. Some people will say that, again, angels or God or, whatever you think is going on there will not allow them to be tested. They won't allow testing to take place. That you're not allowed to test God. You're not allowed to test the spirits. You're not allowed to verify that stuff is going on because it is not that sort of phenomenon. You're not allowed to investigate. That they will know that you're investigating them, so they will shut down their operations so that you don't see them doing the stuff that they're doing. They know that you're looking into the matter. Some people will say that. So I don't know if they're right. Maybe they're right. How do I know? But I don't know how they would know that you couldn't look into the matter, since you can't look into the matter. Maybe they tried to look into the matter and they found nothing, so they concluded, well, you can't look into the matter. But then if you found nothing, then does that really mean you can't look into the matter? Or does that mean when you do look into the matter, you don't find anything? Shouldn't that tell you something? No, of course not. So we have to say, what is the thing that we're studying if we're going to study it in the first place? So what is a miracle? We have to have that. So according to Logan and people, a miracle is just anything that can't be explained, I guess. That's it, right? I mean, you say, here's a case where this person, they had a tumor and then the tumor was gone a couple days later. But he doesn't show it like that. He just shows the tumor was there and then it was gone. Like it was immediate and instantaneous. No, it happened over a period of time. It's kind of like, quick editing, quick, here's this thing, and I get it. You're excited that you found what you think is proof of miraculous. I'd be pretty hyped too. And it would be earth-changing news. It would be something that would fundamentally change our understanding of how the world works if we could only prove it. But we have to have a methodology. That's science right there. We have to be able to do controlled testing on this. That is true science. We have to double blind this. We have to make sure that nobody involved has any reason to get a particular result one way or the other, that they are just interested in finding out what's going on, and that's it. Or they don't even know what it is they're studying. They just know that they're documenting numbers and they don't know what the significance is, if any. We have to do our rigor, and that hasn't been done in these papers or the video itself, or I don't know about the videos he linked. I'm not going to look into all that, but I doubt it. Okay, so we have to know what miracle is. That's first and foremost. So miracle is fill in the blank. I've talked about this in the past. I said that as far as I can tell, the definition of miracle is too ambiguous to nail down for science. It's just anything that's outside of the natural realm. Well, how do we know what's outside of the natural realm? I don't know. And I've given the analogy, if I'm sitting here and my front door suddenly opens, that's going to scare the hell out of me. After I'm done being scared, I'm going to suspect that it's a person that opened my door, because usually people open doors. But if I go in and I inspect it and I see nobody around, I look outside, I see no one there, then I'm going to think, well, okay, it wasn't latched properly. But if it appears that it was latched properly, and, then it's like, well, maybe could an animal have done it? Could the wind have done it? Something else? And eventually maybe I'll run out of explanations. At no point am I actually justified in saying a ghost opened the door. Because first of all, I don't know that ghosts can open doors. And secondly, I don't know that there are ghosts. So I cannot jump to the conclusion simply because I have run out of explanations. And that is a problem. I'm not saying that there are no miracles or that this doesn't happen, but I am saying that in order to establish it, we have to know what it is in the first place. So, how do we identify a miracle in the first place? We can't just say, well, because we don't know what else happened, that is nothing more than an appeal to ignorance. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to commit a logical fallacy in order to base our conclusions on. Somebody, a plane crashes and all but one person dies. It's a miracle. Well, wouldn't it be a miracle if nobody died? Like what makes it miraculous? And then there's, of course, the ultimate problem in doing any prayer study is there is no control group. Here's why. When I was a Christian, I would sometimes, not always, but I would sometimes pray for the entire world. So somebody else, I'm sure, is doing that. So that means everybody is being prayed for at least once by somebody, right? I mean, I don't know how many people do that, but my prayer was like in the past, present, and future that all people would be taken care of and protected and healed and whatever and kept safe, etc. So if that prayer was heard, then that means there are no control groups. Because everybody's always being prayed for at some level. And without, so you would need, you have to have somebody that isn't being prayed for, and you can't make sure that everybody in the world, you'd have to make sure nobody in the world is praying for this guy, to have a true control. That's what you'd have to do. You'd have to be like, hey, everybody, announcement to the world. Don't pray for Thomas Rutledge. And Thomas was like, why me? Why am I the guy we're studying? We're studying Thomas Rutledge because science. He's in the chat room. And well, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna test okay, now we're sure. Well, we asked everybody to not pray for people, but my experience has been asking people to not pray for you, they'll pray for you anyways. And they'll double down on their efforts in prayer. So back, maybe everybody in the world agrees, we promise not to pray for him for just one day, 24 hours. Okay, trust us, we're gonna keep him in this lab. He's behind glass, he's got air, he's got water, he's got a place to defecate, he's gonna get some food. Okay, we're not gonna let him die under our watch, but just for 24 hours not to pray for this guy. And everybody agrees. We all know, and we somehow figure out that nobody is lying. I don't know how. This is an insane scenario that we're constructing, but we did it. Okay. Then we get one dude, one person, or maybe two to pray for Thomas. Or not. And here's the double blind part. They're either praying for him or they're not praying for him, and we don't know. The scientists doing it don't know. For all we know, those two people are just sitting there quietly in another room doing nothing. Then we do it again. Same experiment, done again, but this time they do the opposite of whatever they did last time. So if last time they did pray for him, this time they won't pray for him. We don't know. Then we do a different experiment. We have it where they just think about him, think positive thoughts about him. We do an experiment where they pray for something bad to happen to him. We do one where they think negative thoughts about him. And we see if anything happens to him. That's what we would. And then if we did, and by the way, we're documenting everything. We're recording it with video, audio. We're writing down what time everything happened. This is being broadcast to the world, etc. So that there's ample documentation of what's going on. Well, what will happen? Don't know. It's never been done. I could speculate based on what has been done that nothing would happen. And the response would be, you're not allowed to test the divine. You're not allowed to put God to the test. And that's why nothing happened to Thomas Rutledge, because God knew that you guys were trying to test him and he wouldn't perform for you. I'm like, but well, remember, we got in people that were Satanists that were really dedicated to Satan, like actual Satans, not just the pretend ones, and they were praying for bad stuff to happen. The devil's not under any any obligation either. So the devil didn't feel like doing something bad to him, because the devil doesn't want to be discovered either. Oh, okay. So there's no way to test it, right? Now, I called Logan a con man in his comments and a liar for Jesus in the video title. And maybe he's not really aware of how he's conning himself and others. Maybe he's not aware of the lies he's telling. I don't know. But the argument isn't there. There's multiple logical fallacies throughout his video and lack of scientific rigor done. Books are not citations. All these books are, I think they're owned by the same person. A couple of them aren't. I don't know. You can do deeper digging than I did. Logan didn't. Logan dug at the surface and found stuff that confirms his idea. Wouldn't it be worldwide news if we really found anything? It would be, I think. We would give the person who discovered an actual miracle, that person would have a Nobel Prize. They'd have bazillions of citations. They would be known worldwide. That didn't happen. Well, because science doesn't want it to be true. No, we'd love for that to be true. It'd be great. But what happens is people are getting treatment consistently, constantly throughout their lives. And if given the choice between being just prayed for or getting treatment from medical doctors, which are you going to choose? And some people say, well, it's a false dichotomy. You can do both. Yeah, you can. But you know for sure that the medical treatment will produce a result. You can believe that the prayer will, but you have nothing to show that the prayer will. It might, and maybe if nobody's looking at it, it will, because God works in mysterious ways. But as a skeptic, when I look at this stuff, and I've seen this stuff before, I saw it when I was trying to prove Christianity to myself. I saw again and again and again these sort of cases where somebody said a miracle happened, you'd look into the matter, and you wouldn't find enough evidence to support it. It would just be somebody's antidote. They'd say, I used to do this, and there's no documentation. Sometimes there would be documentation, but it'd be spotty, or there'd all, there wouldn't be medical records, or there would be, but they're sealed, or, this and that, and nothing concrete. But if we did find something, we found one person who immediately, instantly recovered from some condition after a prayer, would that be a miracle? Some people would say yes, and I'd be like, well, it's interesting, but I don't know. We still haven't established what a miracle is. But I'll tell you one thing we've never seen. Somebody regrow a limb. Somebody's scar become healed. Somebody regrow teeth. We've never seen that happen. We've only seen happen what the body can do on its own anyways. Cancer goes into remission. It does happen. It's rare, but it does happen. Tumors die and expire and go are eaten by the body. That happens. People recover from all sorts of illnesses and stigma and issues. It happens. Not all the time, but it does happen. But again, these people aren't being prayed for actively, yet they get a positive result, but we're not looking at those people. Well, technically, those people were prayed for. So again, technically, everybody is prayed for, and then therefore, technically, everything's a miracle. Or are there no natural occurrences of healing at all? Is all healing miraculous in nature? It's hard to say if you don't know what a miracle is. If you define miracle by what you can't explain, you've literally defined it as an appeal to ignorance and are doing illogic. I'm not going to do illogic. I'd love to see something, and that's the problem. If it's unexplained, then that's what we would have. We'd have an unexplained thing. Would that be a miracle? I don't know. But we don't have that unexplained thing. So it's just an interesting idea. One of these days, I want to do a short video or something that had on a miraculous thing that happens. I'll do it. Okay, so here's an example of something. Okay, so here's this floating cube. It sure does look like it's floating off of that paper. This is not a video trick. This is an optical trick. That if you follow the instructions on this video, you can actually make this at home. And it looks like it's floating, but only from certain angles because it's an optical illusion. But if you weren't allowed to look, if you weren't allowed to run your hand underneath it, it might appear to be real. And if you're not allowed to test it further, it seems miraculous. Just because it seems miraculous doesn't mean it is. So we would need some way not only to define what a miracle is, but also how to test a miracle. And we don't have that at all. There's no methodology for any of that. And the theist, whatever their stripe is, whatever religion they are, has different reasons for it. Some do have things that they will say are miracles. Let's see if I can find the yeah, there we go. Not going to pronounce this correctly. Ganesha drinking milk miracle. So here's a statue of Ganesha, whatever. And in 1995, the statue were observed to be drinking milk offerings. The news spread, and they fed the milk, and it was pretty awesome. Yeah. So there you go. There's a miracle we could check out, right? Of course, we weren't really allowed to study it deeply. And some statues didn't drink the milk. So, but some of them did. But, also maybe the liquid in the spoon was collated the statue beneath where the spoon was placed. So the milk goes along the edges of the statue and collects at the bottom. So it looks like they're drinking milk, but it's just an effect of, it's just an illusion. But we can find videos of this happening, and if you don't bother to acknowledge that it could be natural, then sure, it's a miracle. I would love to find a real one, but that's not what I found in this video by Logan. Is it fair to call him a liar? I don't know. Liar to me sometimes suggests the person knows that it's not true, but also Aaron Ra's view of what liar is, I'm kind of utilizing that here, that if you say something and you can't show it's true, you're lying. I think that that's the case here. He's showing something that he thinks confirms his idea, but it isn't. I would be convinced if we had a demonstrable demonstration, but we'd also have to know what a miracle is and have a way to test it. And due to the definition of miracle, well, we can't, apparently. So, and I'll just go over that really quickly to wrap all this up. I know I didn't show a bit of his video. It's great. It's very weird. I don't actually cover the video. I just tell you about the video. I don't actually play the video. A surprising or welcome event that is, explicable by natural scientific laws. So you can't explain it. Highly improbable or extraordinary event, developed or accomplishment. But an extraordinary event manifesting divine intervention in human affairs. So there's not really what is it though? How do we know what it is? So we need, it's like we don't, water to wine. Okay, that's pretty cool because we don't know a mechanism that water can go to wine. Well, we know that there's ways to do it. You could have a trick pot. You could have a liquid that changes color. You can also turn water into wine into milk. Yeah, there's tricks. Huh. But surely there's one that does it for real, right? Well, if there was, then we could test it and we could observe it and we could see it happen in the lab, and that'd be amazing and awesome, and I'd love to see it. We don't have that here in this video. We don't have empirical evidence. What we do have is cherry-picked data that ignores all other possible reasons for these events. We don't have good scientific rigor going on, and we don't have a sound argument, and we don't have scientific evidence. We don't have any repeated tests done at all, and these weren't done in double-blind methods. So I think we should be skeptical of these conclusions. So that's it. That's his video in short. I somehow went an hour talking about it, even though I didn't look at a single bit of his video. I feel like I need to play something of his video. There's got to be. I really shouldn't I? Nah, I'm good. All right, that's it for now. Until next time, be skeptical. And after next time, stay skeptical. All right, gonna fix all my links. Make sure all the Zelda, and yeah.